Hey guys, Dan here, and it's Dan Does Disney. We've got Tim over Zoom. Hey Tim,
Hi, everybody.
we're going to talk about something very timely this week because this is Christmas time. Babes in Toyland was Walt's big Christmas movie of 1961, which means we're also here like right about the same week of the 60th anniversary of Babes in Toyland. This is we don't usually do it like right on the week.
Yeah, it's just worked out that way.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice. This is where it falls in the pattern of things. And this made a modest take at the box office. It was made for $3 million. It made 4.6 million. So a little bit of a profit, I suppose. It came out December 14th of 1961. And as we always do with Dan Does Disney, I'll do a little bit of background. Tim will give us the plot, and then we'll sort of talk about the schematics of this. I watched this one on Disney Plus, as I'm sure you did as well, Tim.
Yep.
I don't have the DVD for some reason. I guess maybe I was focusing on getting all the 1962 ones that aren't on Disney Plus. This one fell through the cracks. But I do think there is a DVD with some extras out there. So anyway, all right. So this is based on an operetta from 1903, Victor Herbert's big popular Babes in Toyland operetta. It was Herbert's first big hit. It opened in Chicago first and then ran in New York for 192 performances. And then I was slightly familiar with the Laurel and Hardy film version in 1934, and in which characters actually kind of resembled the Three Pigs from the Mickey Mouse Three Pigs short. So there's sort of a little early Walt tie in there as well. And there were a couple of TV movie versions of this, but this was the second theatrical version of the story. But Disney, as he likes to do, had most of the lyrics rewritten and changed. And some of the tempos of the songs were changed as well. So, it fit more in context of an upbeat sort of Disney type movie. This was originally going to be an animated film. And then that was when it was first announced in 55. And then through the years, he sort of softened on that and decided to make it his first live action musical. I didn't realize, Tim, with all the ones we've done, this really is the first live action musical. We did some of those compilation ones from the 40s. And there's some singing in, Davy Crockett and some of these others, but this one is apparently considered the first live action Disney musical.
Yeah, I mean, there's always like some songs, but it's like with musicals, it's usually characters bust out in song, and it's just part of like the world that they live in, where the context of all the other people singing in past movies is like, oh, they're having fun singing a song like So Dear to My Heart. They're singing a song because that's what they do in the cabin, and like the uncle's there and he sings a song, or Davy Crockett sings a song or something like that. But
yeah, or the sea shanty.
Or the sea shanty. Yes, it's just like, okay, yeah, a bunch of sailors on a ship, they're going to sing a sea shanty, and it makes sense in context. Or you have like the Davy Crockett anthem, and it's just a song over top of something.
Yeah. So I mean, it never occurred to me that because we talk so much about the music in all of these movies, but yeah, so this is the first one where they're busting out. And then the second one, which came a few years later, was Mary Poppins. So obviously, this maybe helped beget Mary Poppins. But anyway, so there was originally like this big love triangle with Tom and Mary and Barnaby, which Tim will tell us who those characters are, that they decided to sort of take out of this version. And so over the years, Walt decided, okay, this is maybe better as a live action than it is animated. So only the effects, a few of the effects were animated, especially in like the one song that Annette Funicello is singing. But they originally had Dean Jones in mind for this role, who I don't believe we have seen yet, Tim. Dean Jones at all?
Nope.
Okay, so that's what I thought. We have not discussed him yet, but he is big in Disney in the later 60s because he's in the Herbie the Love Bug. He's in That Darn Cat. I think he's in The Ugly Dotson. So he's going to be in a few later, but for some reason, whatever happened, negotiations fell through with that, and they decided on Ray Bolger, who everyone knows as the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. And so, Annette Funicello, of course, was slated to be the female lead. She had her start on the Mickey Mouse Club, and we've already talked about her in a few more minor roles, but she is, certainly the star of this one. And she has claimed this is her favorite of all the movies she ever did. One of the reasons is because she got to do dancing other than the Watusi or the Swim, which of course she was in all those beach movies from the 60s. And in fact, she loved the dress in the movie that she wore so much that she contacted the film's designer to design her wedding dress in 1965. So a lot of love for this one from her. And Tommy Kirk also said that he loved it working with Ed Wynn. And he said some of the movies he was in, he was a bit embarrassed about, but not this one. And then Annette also said Walt visited the set every day. I feel like at this point, Walt wasn't necessarily going all the time to these movies. We've talked several times about shoots that he never even showed up for. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Obviously he had, some investment there. What else? Well, Tim will talk about all the people that we've seen before and since. And you mentioned last time, this is the first Tommy Kirk we've done since his death. We had posted a couple after the death that we had recorded shortly before, but this was our first Tommy Kirk since he passed.
Yeah.
So you'll talk all about that. Principal photography on this started in March of 61, scheduled for 3 months. The stop motion toy soldier scene took 6 months to film. So that was a huge time constraint with having to be done by Christmas. And also in the scene where Annette Funicello is walking on her hands, they did not do, camera trickery with that. That was all her being sort of strung upside down with wires. And they had her wig wired down to her head so it didn't fall. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But other than that, they've had a few VHS releases for this, 82, 93, and 96. The loan DVD releases 2002. Like I said, I do think there's some extras on there, but I don't have it. And then, of course, I think the biggest legacy of this movie is the theme parks. Tim, you I'm sure remember the marching and the parade of the toys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember it that much. I did read that the toy soldiers are in some of the parades, or they were in some of the parades. I'm not sure if they're still in the parades. But the last time I went, I feel like it was a Christmas parade, so I don't think they were in it. From
a couple of the sources I read, they are still doing it with the toy soldiers. So I'm going to be going down in a few weeks. It'll be shortly after Christmas. So I don't know if they'll be in it or not, but I'll be looking. And then for 2 years, from 61 to 63, they actually had a few of the set pieces in, I guess it was Disneyland at the time, because Disney World wasn't built yet, but they had the trees, the talking trees that we'll hear about, the pumpkin house, Mary's garden, and the shoe house were all there on Main Street in Disneyland. And then eventually it was replaced with some sort of political Abe Lincoln type of thing. I don't think it's the Hall of Presidents. That's something else. But anyway, so that's the background of this. So obviously this was certainly a love letter for Walt. He had wanted to make a film that would stand the test of time, as The Wizard of Oz has. I think that's partially why they decided on Ray Bolger to be in the movie. We always sort of joke with our buddy Joe that, a movie isn't a legitimate movie unless there's an Oz reference. And this movie is basically one big Oz reference, which we'll get into the specifics of. But I mean, it was like every scene I was noting things that were very, very Oz specific. So we'll see if Walt's vision came true. Obviously, people don't talk about this as much as they do The Wizard of Oz. But I feel like it's a fairly beloved film.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've heard much about it prior to this. I think I've heard the name, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I've heard it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's what it is. And I do have, like I said, I was a bit familiar with the Laurel and Hardy version. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've at least known about this one. Some of these ones that we've come up with, I'd never even heard of until we started doing the list. But all right. So Tim, tell us all about the cast and crew of Babes in Toyland and the plot points.
Yeah, but also maybe also Drew Barrymore was in a 80 version on TV as well, so maybe I know that version more than.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I wonder if I know it from that too.
Yeah, Babes in Toyland. Just like Dan said, it's based off Victor Herbert's beloved and popular 1903 operetta of the same name, and it involves Mary Quake Contrary, and she is set to marry Tom Piper. But on the eve of their wedding, the Evermeister Barnaby hires 2 henchmen to drown Tom and steal Mary's sheep, forcing Mary to marry him instead. The henchmen instead decide to sell Tom to a group of gypsies so they can get paid twice, and this provides Tom an opportunity to find his way back to Mary. However, their happy reunion is short-lived because they have to go into the forest of no return to go after the children who have gone looking for the lost sheep. Mary, Tom, and the children find their way to Toyland, where they come across the crazy toy maker, his assistant, and his assistant's amazing inventions. All of this leads up to another confrontation with Barnaby as he tries yet again to steal Mary's hand in marriage. And that is the story of Babes in Toyland. So cast-wise, like Dan said, it stars Annette Funicello. She plays Mary Quake Contrary. We've seen her once before, and that was in The Shaggy Dog, and she's a famous Mouseketeer. We'll see her in 2 more featured Disney movies. The next up is The Misadventures of Merlin Jones, and then she reprises the role for the sequel a couple years later. She's also in a TV 2-part Disney thing called Escapade in Florence with Tommy Kirk. And Tommy Kirk also is The Misadventures of Merlin Jones. So she does a lot of roles with Tommy Kirk coming up. We have Tommy Sands. He plays Tom Piper. The only other Disney thing that we have for him is that he sang the opening number of The Parent Trap, which we talked about, with Annette Funicello. And
he was a very big singer in the late 50s. He was like a teen heartthrob. He had like a top 5 song on the chart. So I'm sure Walt got him the role, to be sort of the big eye candy here.
Yeah. And then I guess his film career was starting to bloom a little bit, but he divorced Frank Sinatra's daughter, Nancy, and Frank Sinatra kind of had him blacklisted from a lot of stuff. So he had a very struggling time after that happened. So this is probably the last we'll see of Tommy Sands. He's in the.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, you can't do that to Frank. Everyone knows that.
Like Dan said, Ray Bolger, he plays Barnaby Barnacle. That is the character's full name. I'm not sure I knew that his last name was Barnacle from watching this movie, but that is the character name. And like Dan said, he does one other famous family fun movie, and that is The Wizard of Oz, where he plays the Scarecrow / Hunk.
You're right.
That name of Hunk.
And this is the only villain role he's ever played, apparently.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen any of his other. I think maybe I saw one of his other 40s movies, but yeah, apparently this is the only villain he's ever played.
Yeah, and this is his only Disney movie as well. We have Ed Wynn. He plays the toy maker. We've seen him once before in a bit role of the absent-minded professor, but we've heard his voice in 1951's Alice in Wonderland, where he famously plays the Mad Hatter, and he has the same voice here because that's his voice. He's in 4 more Disney movies. The next up is Son of Flubber.
I think Mary Poppins is probably the most famous. He plays Uncle Albert in that. Yeah. And your friend, Tim, Alan Tudyk, doing his best Ed Wynn impression in Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, for King Candy.
Yeah.
So we have Tommy Kirk. He plays Grumio. He is the assistant to the toy maker. We've seen him many times. The last time was in The Absent-Minded Professor with Ed Wynn. He's in 6 more Disney movies, not including that Escapade in Florence TV movie with Annette Funicello. So 6 actual feature-length movies that we'll be reviewing and covering. Next up is our next movie, which will be the first one in 62 is Moon Pilot, and we'll have Tommy Kirk for that. Then we have Henry Calvin and Gene Sheldon. They play Gonzorgo and Rodrigo. They are the henchmen. I grouped them together because every time we see these two, they are together. We saw them together in Toby Tyler / 10 Weeks in the Circus, and we saw them together in Zorro. And they did Toby Tyler and this movie, as we talked about, because the contracts for Zorro, they wanted to keep them under contracts, and they just were like, oh, we have them under contracts, here's some movies.
I have to imagine, I haven't seen the Laurel and Hardy version, or if I did, I was very little, but I have to imagine that these were the Laurel and Hardy roles from that version, because you've got the one very tall and lean one, you've got the other one shorter and fatter, and they're doing a lot of the more slapsticky stuff, I feel like, in this movie.
Yeah, they were totally embracing or homaging the Laurel and Hardy characters. Except for Gene Sheldon, he's a famous mime. He actually did talk in Toby Tyler, but he didn't talk in Zorro because that is his. Yeah, he's a famous.
Did he not talk in this movie?
No, he didn't talk. No.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Okay.
Yeah. Then we have Kevin Corcoran, because we always talk about our guy Kevin Corcoran. He plays Boy Blue. And we last saw him in Swiss Family Robinson. We'll see him 3 more times. Next is in Bon Voyage, which also has Tommy Kirk in it. Fun fact, Tommy Kirk and Kevin Corcoran, we've talked that they've been in a lot of movies together. They always play brothers, except for this movie. This is the only movie that they don't play brothers in.
This is the only one?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Because they were brothers in Shaggy Dogs, Swiss Family Robinson.
Right. Old Yeller for sure, yeah.
They'll be back again.
Okay.
Brothers. And I guess Bon Voyage, they play brothers as well. And the only other name I have down here, I have Brian Corcoran, because he is the actual real life brother of Kevin Corcoran. And he played Wee Willie Winky. And it's crazy because I think he actually had more speaking lines than Kevin Corcoran. I was like, Kevin Corcoran is not talking in this movie at all.
Yeah, I don't know why that was, but it's clear that they're real brothers because they look basically exactly the same. They could be twins.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. What's his face? Brian talks a bit more, a lot more, I guess, than Kevin. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe his voice was changing or something, and he was shy about talking. I have no idea. The only other name I'll mention though is Anne Gillian, who plays Bo Peep here. Who I'm sure Tim don't know, but she was a sitcom actress in the 70s and 80s. This was her first feature film. But I knew her for many things. And so she passed away of cancer, I think, in the early 90s. But she had her own TV show for a while, and she was on other shows. So this was her film debut.
Yeah. And I didn't put the person who played Mother Goose as well. I forget what her name was, but Mary
McCarty.
Okay. But they don't have it. Both those actresses don't do anything else with Disney, as far as I saw. So those are the actors and actresses. Dan, you didn't say that this was nominated for 2 Oscars. It was nominated for costume design and best music for scoring of a musical picture.
Well, I have to imagine it lost both of those to West Side Story.
That is
right.
Yep.
Because the fact, so and you'll see this on my channel soon, but Joe and I, for Dan's big movie this month, watched West Side Story, the original, for the 60th anniversary, and it's insane to me that movie and this movie came out within about a week of each other. because it's kind of a night and day contrast. But yes, West Side Story, I'm sure, won all of the awards at the Oscars that year.
Yep, they definitely won costume design and best music for scoring for a musical. I also read that this is not faithful to the 1903 stage version. Like you said, they made some changes, but the 1934 Laurel and Hardy one also made many changes, just different changes. So they're equally different from the 1903 stage musical. And I would say probably the thing that I enjoyed the most out of this movie were the sets and the effects. The sets and the effects were the great things about this movie. I thought the songs were a little disappointing. I thought they were a little tiresome. And then I thought the dance numbers, man, those dance numbers just took you right out of it. Like,
all right, Tim, I want to say I'm really happy to hear you say that, because I thought maybe this was going to be our biggest discrepancy yet. I thought this movie was pretty bad.
Yes.
There's a few things I liked about it. I echo what you said about the sets. Although even in the sets, I don't think they're very inspired. Like, yes, they were cool looking, but okay. I just want to talk about a little bit of the Ozing of it all, because you have seen Oz, I'm sure, a couple of times. I've seen it like, 50, 60 times. It's my number one movie of all time. Love the Oz. Yeah. So, okay, I read, before I watched it, Walt was inspired by Oz and he wanted an Oz story for the ages. Okay, great. But like, he's directly ripping things right out of the playbook. The sets from the Mother Goose thing, it's basically Munchkin Land without a yellow brick road. All of the walls and the houses, they're all designed in the exact same style of Munchkin Land. Then obviously you have Ray Bolger, the Scarecrow is here as the villain. But then, like, even so far as the kids go into the forest, and some of the signs that we read on the way into the forest, go back, turn back now, are directly like rip off same exact signs from Oz. And then the talking trees are in the forest. It was like crazy. And then when they knock on the door at the toy maker, or the Toyland part, it's the same exact door knocker from the Wizard of Oz. Like, it was crazy to me. There's homage, and then there's just blatantly ripping it off. I'm just shocked, because this to me is the most unoriginal Disney movie we've watched yet.
I will say that there was definitely some Oz things. I have not seen Oz in a really long time. I remember seeing like the first half probably 10 years in a row, because they showed it on television for 10 years, probably every year. And I watched the first half, and my parents were like, okay, go to sleep. It's your bedtime. And I'm like, okay. But I have seen the full thing, at least probably twice, but it's been years. But I will say that I don't know how much of this is based off of the 1903 stage musical, which obviously came before the movie Wizard of Oz. I don't know what year the source material of the Wizard of Oz came out.
I don't know for sure, but it's definitely right around that time. I believe it was like late. I mean, there's 5 or 6 different Oz books, but I think it is late 1800s. I think it's like 1890s through maybe like 1910, 1912. So it's right in that area. But the other thing to that is, all right, well, you've changed so much already about this story. If you don't want to make it that close to Oz, change a couple other things. They're already changing so much, I feel like.
I imagine that the talking trees were probably in the stage musical. I feel it.
Yes, I have to admit they probably were, but they were designed the exact same way as the Oz ones. So there's that. But I did like a couple other things about it, though. I liked the interaction between Edwin and Tommy Kirk.
Yes.
I can see why Tommy Kirk loved working with him. For me, that's when the movie actually like got interesting. That scene, the first scene with the toy, the machine or whatever, the invention, that was really well done. You said the special effects. I think the effects, were pretty solid with that. I sort of liked when it was getting overloaded and we saw like help coming out, in cartoon form. That was kind of fun.
Yeah. I agree. Once they got to Toyland with the toy maker and Tommy Kirk, definitely brought some fresh air into this movie. Like it's called Babes in Toyland, and it takes them over an hour to even like go into Toyland or even think about going into Toyland. And it just takes forever to get there. I'm like, and so I told my wife that I was watching this movie, and she was like, "Oh, that's on this list of Christmas movies that you should watch." And I was like, "This is a Christmas movie?" Because you don't find out anything about Christmas until you get to Toyland and find out that the toy maker has to make toys for Christmas presents. And it's like such a subplot that I have no idea why anyone would have this on a list of Christmas movies, besides it just came out around Christmas and mentions this Christmas like 3 times. Like,
yeah, it's funny. It takes place in October because he looks at the calendar and he's like, "Oh, 2 more months to make the toys."
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
So, but the effects, I will say, the Net Fontainebleau song, I forget what it was, but with the walking on the hands thing, there are some great effects in there.
Tim, it's the song where women don't know how to do math.
Yes.
It's called Women Are Dum-Dums and They Can't Do Math.
The song was not good, but the effects in the song are good. I do like one, she comes up to the mirror and she's singing in the mirror, and then she turns away and her reflection stays this, like, doesn't change. I thought that was really done seamlessly. And then my favorite song, it doesn't have to do with the song, their lyrics, it's just the things that are happening in the song, is the one that Henry Calvin sings about Sank into the Sea. I thought the effects, especially all the water effects that they were doing with the characters having water come out of their pockets and like out his like basically his collar and stuff like that, and then him running around and basically the water getting deeper and deeper, and then he like kind of falls into the water. I thought that was done really well, like the effect wise, and I thought that was the best song at any point going up to when they got to Toyland. I was like, okay, the lyrics aren't that great. And you know what my worst song is? Not even worse than the stupid girls can't dance. Sadly, it's Ray Bolger's song that he the castle
at the fountain.
Yeah, at the fountain. He is so creepy in that scene, and his dance number that he had, like, it was just very awkward, and I feel like I could do that dance, and I'm not a dancer. I mean, I thought he did a really good job as this villain, but it was very creepy because Ed Wynn makes a comment about it later. He's like, "You could be her like grandfather," and I was like, "Yeah, this is
when Ed Wynn was officiating the wedding, there were some good one-liners in there."
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny because I was sort of thinking about like, oh, he was such a good dancer in The Wizard of Oz. But then I thought, actually, he's made of straw. So he falls down a lot as he's dancing in Oz. So it's possible Ray Bolger just can't dance. But I feel like that's not true because I feel like he had a stage background. So I don't know. But I agree. Like his dance moves are very basic.
Yeah, and he's like doing this thing with this cape, and it's just like, I was like, what is going on here? Like when the gypsies come, like, oh, that is one good song. I thought Tommy Sands as the gypsy lady, I thought that was pretty impressive for him because he definitely sounded like an old lady while he was singing.
Yeah, that was real good. And interesting because, there was a fortune teller in The Wizard of Oz, and he was also playing other characters in the movie. So, another one I took note of. But yeah, that was actually pretty good. I didn't mind that. But
there was a whole section of just gypsies doing a mediocre dance before you get to that you're just like, I don't know. There was many things I disliked about this movie, and only a few things that I liked about this movie.
Well, what about we were talking about the effects? We haven't quite yet mentioned really the toy soldiers. I said it took
Okay.
them 6 months to do it, but I thought that was it's a really good sort of battle scene at the end.
Yeah, and they're okay. So you have all the effects at the end. You have the toy soldiers that are like coming to life. Um, that there was a lot. That was a big scene. So I understand why it took 6 months to do. It's not like a quick scene. There's a lot of toy soldiers moving, the stop motion animation. I thought all the effects of them shrinking people, that was done really well. Not sure if they used the forced perspective that they used for what's
Darby
that
O'Gill.
Darby O'Gill movie. They probably used a little bit of that, but then probably some split screen editing that they kind of got mastered in Parent Trap as well. But I thought all that was done really well. There was a little bit of green screen action of Tommy Stance in front of the toy soldiers at a couple of spots, but I even thought that was done pretty well for green screen for 61.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
But here's the thing, like everything we're mentioning as a positive, for the most part, except maybe like one or two things, doesn't happen until they actually get into Toyland.
yeah. And then I think the final battle of the sword fight between Barnaby and Tom Piper, that was pretty good as well. They were now both miniaturized, so all the set props were giant things. So I thought that was done really well and choreographed pretty well as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think these are the positives. Yeah, I mean the songs were okay, I think at best. And actually, I thought the Annette Funicello one was kind of catchy, and I was enjoying the visual component of it. But right, all the lyrics about how I'm a dum dum because I can't figure out my taxes and all this stuff, like it was just ridiculous. But I liked the music to it and the visual component, and that certainly happens before Toyland. But yeah, you're right. Like they don't even know what Toyland is for like an hour, and then they finally get there right afterwards. Like at least in Wizard of Oz, their quest is to go to Oz the whole movie. Like they're talking about it.
Yeah, and I'll agree that the Annette Funicello song is catchy, like music wise, but then once you start paying attention to some of the lyrics, you're like, okay, and then it moves on, and like, okay, these lyrics are a little bit better, and then it moves back to like stupid lyrics, you know. But I think she had a good singing voice. I mean, it's Annette Funicello. I will say that I don't think any of the singing was bad. It's just that the lyrics were not great and the songs were good.
Yeah, the songs were. I would just say they're unmemorable. I mean, I just watched it. I don't know, 8 hours ago, and other than like a couple of the numbers, I can't even remember really a lot of them. Whereas, granted, obviously the songs of West Side Story are iconic, but I watched the original West Side Story at this point a week ago, and all of those songs have been in my head all week. So yeah, I really I thought this was going to be something fun, and I guess for little kids it's fun, especially like some of the opening scene stuff with Mother Goose, and they bring a couple of the nursery rhymes to life, and the kid Jack jumping over the candlestick, like that was kind of fun. That was some interesting tech stuff, special effects stuff with the candle grow. Like that was fine, for little kindergartners, but I feel like I don't know. We judge a lot of things by, okay, well, how did this look in 61? I think even in 61, this probably looked, like it was just for little kids as opposed to something for the whole family that I think he was hoping for.
We didn't talk about Mother Goose and the Goose at all. The puppet. I thought the puppetry was really done well. Also,
there were some all right jokes with them too.
All right jokes, and the way it was set up, like at first, I thought there was someone puppeting the goose behind her, but then like she turns around, I'm like, you realize that she has a very realistic fake hand attached to underneath the goose, and then she's doing it all, but she's not doing the voice. I read that the director does the voice.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure. She's a really good puppeteer for having someone else do the voice.
Yeah.
Unless she was
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
yeah. So I mean that's a nice thing as well. So there are a decent amount of things that are good about this, but sadly there are also equally amount of things that are bad about this.
All right. Well, Tim, I'm real glad. I just looked at the Rotten as we were talking. Usually, I at least some point look at the Rotten before we tape, but I hadn't for some reason. I thought this was a really beloved movie, but have you seen the Rotten on it? Because it's not great.
No,
It's
I don't.
35% for the critics. So that and then the audience I think was like 52% or something. So both in the Rotten category. So all right, at least we're not alone here. I really didn't know if I was going to have to like fight for my grade being worse than it was, but all right. Well, I my ceiling for this was a C. I was like, if Tim loves this movie, I can't go higher than a C for this. So I'm going to stick with what I originally thought of it, which is a C minus.
That is what I have written down here at the bottom of my sheet. I actually usually don't my grade on my sheet. I usually just kind of do it, but I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, this is C minus. Honestly, if they didn't go to Toyland in this movie, it would have been probably a D. Like,
oh yeah.
At least when you finally get to Toyland, the last 35 minutes of this movie is actually enjoyable. It just takes forever to get there. And once you get to Toyland, I think they might sing only 2 more songs. So there's a lot more going on than just songs. And so you kind of...
You're absolutely right. What's funny is like if they made this a special episode of The Wonderful World of Disney, right? And it was like a 10-minute lead up, where we introduce the characters, we introduce the villain, okay, maybe sing one song, and then they go to Toyland, and the rest of it was just as it is. Yeah, it'd be like an A minus probably. Like the Toyland stuff is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just takes forever to get there. All right, well, Tim, same page again.
Yeah. And really it's the special effects and I thought the sets were good. I will agree that it's a little bit of Oz-ish, but I did like the Mother Goose theme of it, of the town.
Wasn't bad.
And I understand why they took those and put them at Disneyland for 2 years, because they looked like they were kind of impressive.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that. All right, well, so that's it for 61. So when we return in the new year, we will have what'd you say the next one was? Not Moon Pilot, right?
No, Pilot.
It's Moon, okay, so Moon Pilot is next, in which, like Tim said, we'll see a couple of the same people. And then is the one after that Bon Voyage?
I had it written down here on my list.
We have the whole list.
Yeah, it's Moon Pilot and then Bon Voyage. And then
okay, well, we'll do those then, up and coming. Yeah, rolling right along. I agree this isn't much of a Christmas movie, but heck, it came out at Christmas and they talk about Christmas toys in it, so I guess that answers that question.
Yeah.
But all right, Tim, thanks for joining. We'll see everybody next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.